since I'll be pointing out the pros and cons in this video, this is going to be sort of a guide video. So, the Pyro. It has 175 health. That's really good. That's almost soldier, and at overheal it's 260. So, considering that's near a heavy, I'd say that the Pyro actually is pretty bulky on health, considering that its speed is 100%. So that isn't too far from the Scout. It's pretty fast, and the old set, with the old gas jockey set, it had really good speed, and with the power jack, oh no, the power jack increased the speed. Yeah, it made it even faster. It made it even a bit faster than Scout, I believe, but I'm not sure. Anyway, there are two types of Pyros. There is the Pyro that uses there's a speed Pyro and there's an offensive Pyro, but what I'm mainly meaning are the loadouts. There's a Phlogistinator Pyro, which does not focus on air blasts and solely focuses on getting damage on the enemy and continuously filling up the oomph meter. Considering that fact, you heal all your health, regain all your lost ammo, and are able to do critical hits while the meter goes down. It is also used with other weapons. It basically, you only use the Phlogistinator. You can use whatever you want with it, but the Phlogistinator is solely focused on getting the meter full. There is a big cost though. You don't get the air blast, and the air blast is important if you want to, if you're fighting on a map against soldiers and there's lots of soldiers and you want to be able to reflect their rockets, or you want to be able to reflect, you know, Demo Man's stickies, the Demo Man's grenades. So it becomes a problem. As for the other Pyro, which focuses on the flamethrower part more, I'll get to the loadout. But the other Pyro is Degreaser Pyro, and this I'm focusing mainly on what I use. But everything's about the same. It's just speed. Degreaser and basically I use Degreaser, the reserve shooter, and the home wrecker. The home wrecker does double damage to buildings. That's really good, because if you find an NG just building his building out in the open, like a sentry gun, you can go up to it and it will instantly destroy it. Considering the fact that sentry guns only have like almost 150 health, I think. I'm not sure. And you can destroy it. So that's really good. The downside is that it does, I believe, -20. It does 20% less damage to other players, if I'm right. I don't remember. Go look that up. But then you use the reserve shooter. Well, you should be in a Degreaser set. You should be using like the Postal Pummeler. For one thing, it does critical damage to players who are burned. So you can instantly get to your melee, go up to an enemy who's worried about dying because they're on fire and they're trying to kill you, and there's no water open, and you can go up to him and just hit him with your Postal Pummeler. There, got it. You did a critical. You did critical damage. They were burned. It really works. So, the question is, what is the better set? Well, if you're going to be asking that, then don't. Because neither set is really better. Both sets are really good, considering the fact that they each show the Pyro's offensive abilities. And Pyro's just an offensive guy, unless you're talking about him guarding, he or she guarding sentries or an NG nest, because pyros are very effective at guarding NG nests. They're good for spy checking. It's always nice to have a pyro around, especially on 2 Fort. When you're in the intel room, you bring a pyro along. It's really nice. So the question, what I use mostly, I've found myself using the Phlogistinator more, because being able to fill up the meter extremely fast really does help, and you're doing the damage. And I'm gonna tell you, it seems as if the Phlogistinator has a longer range. It does seem like that, and it's a really cool weapon. So on the Imphomator, you get all your lost health back, you get all your lost ammo back. Sorry about that, guys. And you get criticals. You get, I don't know if it's mini crits, I think it's mini crits, for however long until the meter's gone. And then you just go fight more enemies. The cool thing is that once you're critical, you can just keep going back, and you can keep fighting the enemies with, and keep filling up the meter. I kind of think of that as being infinite. That's why I've been using the Phlogistinator more. It really helps on a map like Turbine, because Turbine has so many places where players are occupied, so it's kind of like Pyro bait. You can just go up to them and flamethrower. There are so many, there are a lot of tight spaces, and I'm talking about the vents. You could go through the vents, and even if it was a heavy, you could go up to the heavy, and you could Phlogistinate him. I don't care. You could, I wouldn't see a problem using the flare gun with the Phlogistinator at this point, because you could flare gun, the heavy might come at you, and while you're waiting, you could come up and, Phlogistinator. It really does help. And if I'm not mistaken, however much is on your oomph meter, whatever damage you do with flames, I believe, it will fill up the meter. So if you were to use a secondary like a flare gun or a detonator or a man melter, it really does help. That's why I like using the Phlogistinator, because it's good in a situation where, if you're using flare gun, you could use that. Whereas I used to want to use the degreaser so much, because the degreaser gives you an immense increases of speed. It's used mainly for speed. It's basically the flamethrower. Just it gives you a weapon switch speed. If you pair if you pair that with the reserve shooter, then you get an amazing increase in weapon switch speed, because then you don't have to worry if say you're in a tight spot and something's coming at you and you need a flamethrower and you have your reserve shooter out. Well, you don't have to worry. Or if you're in the vents, like I said, and you need to melee because there's somebody around the corner, you can easily switch to your melee before they even notice. Boom. You can hit him with your melee. It's over. It's done. So the question is, do you need a certain melee on your sets? For the degreaser, yes. It is recommended that you use the postal pummeler, because of the fact that you can burn the enemy, then you can switch to your melee, the postal pummeler. Don't get that confused. And you can attack an enemy while they're burned and caught off guard, and you can hit them for critical damage. It's really good, and it will most of the time knock out the enemy, considering they don't have a medic or something with them, or they're not supercharged. So yeah, that's the cool thing. down to the things that the Pyro uses mainly. The Pyro, you either go, like I said, you either go defensive or you go offensive. Defensive is mainly spy checking around engine nests, because, or around a corner, because the flamethrower not only, inflicts damage, but, also keeps the enemy burned, afterburn. So, it really helps. And if you're playing offensive, you may want to play like the degreaser set, where you're always constantly switching your weapons to, use your melee, or, if you're out on the field, the Pyro can't necessarily do much. It isn't your, your scout or your demo man. It isn't that. But you can easily use the Pyro to your advantage. Heck, you can use a type of rocket jumper Pyro, because the detonator lets you alt fire. That basically means when you press mouse 2 to detonate, I believe, and you jump, you can basically rocket jump like the soldier. You'll take a little damage, but here's the cool thing. The Pyro has a flame retardant suit that keeps you protected from flames. That's why Pyro is amazing for other Pyro battles. That's why I suggest using the Phlogistinator against other Pyros. It really does help. Or the degreaser, anyone. See, the Pyro is good in any situation. But the only problem is the Pyro's flamethrower only gets to a certain range. It's used for close combat. It's used for, around corners. It's used more as a stealthy character, but you can use it out on the field. It's just a bit harder. It's nice to be paired with a medic at times if you do need it, and it's kind of a support class. Think of it as the offensive class that supports. I'll continue this in part 2. For now, I think this video has been pretty much pointless. I have been, I basically told you the stuff you didn't even really need to know. I may make this into 4 parts, I don't know. I'll show gameplays. I may show a defensive and an offensive. It all depends. Anyway, this has been part 1, and thanks for watching. This has been my Pyro guide. Bye.